Cal Bennett had always been a quiet man, the kind of cowboy who spoke only when necessary and listened more than he talked. People in the small towns along the Arizona plains knew of him, but only in the way travelers are known: a friendly nod, a polite greeting, and then the sound of horse hooves fading down the dusty road. He was a man who felt at home under the open sky, where the horizon stretched forever and the wind held stories older than any person living. Cal liked the simplicity of the land. He liked how the sun rose every morning without needing to be told, and how the stars returned every night like faithful companions. His life was not lonely. It was simply peaceful. The wide plains, the dry grasses brushing against his boots, and the smell of pine whenever he rode closer to the canyon, these were enough for him. He worked with cattle, delivered supplies to nearby ranches, and sometimes helped neighbors mend fences or repair roofs. His life moved steady, like a river that does not rush but never stops. He did not seek trouble, nor did trouble often seek him. Everything about his days was calm. Not far from where Cal traveled, there lived a young Navajo woman named Atza. Her name meant eagle, a bird that symbolized strength, freedom, and vision. The name suited her well, for she had a spirit that soared higher than the land around her. She lived among her family and her people, who valued connection, tradition, and harmony with the earth. Atza had learned since childhood how to gather herbs from the desert, how to weave patterns that carried meaning, and how to sit quietly and listen to the wind as though it were speaking directly to her heart. Her world was rich with culture and meaning. Songs were sung in the early mornings, prayers were spoken as the sun touched the mountains, and stories were passed down from one generation to the next. These stories told of creation, of balance, of respecting all life. Atza grew up loving these traditions, loving the land and loving the quiet wisdom shared by elders around warm evening fires. However, within her was something more. She held a dream that stretched just beyond what was expected of her. She desired to learn from the healer women, to travel to neighboring communities, and to gather knowledge that could help others. She wanted to be someone who could guide people through sadness, confusion, or fear. She believed every person carried a light inside them, and that sometimes people simply needed help remembering it. Her family loved her, but they sometimes worried about her independent spirit. They hoped her life would follow a safer path, a familiar one, where everything was already known and predictable. They believed that a secure marriage and a peaceful home would protect her. They believed that following tradition would guide her toward happiness. Their love was real, but their understanding of her was incomplete. Often Atza would walk alone along the ridge, where the desert met the sky in a smooth, endless line. There she felt the ground beneath her feet and the warmth of the sun on her face. She felt connected to everything and yet separate too, like a bird perched between staying and flying. She wished to speak her thoughts clearly, but in her community certain wishes were harder to express. She respected her elders deeply, yet she yearned to choose her own path. It was during such a season of quiet inner struggle that Cal and Atza's lives began to slowly, silently move toward one another, like two distant trails curving closer without either traveler realizing it. Cal did not know anything about the questions moving through Atza's heart. He only knew that the land felt different lately. The air felt heavier, as though holding a story waiting to be told. Sometimes when he rode near the canyon, he felt as if someone unseen was watching him, not in fear but with curiosity. He had heard of the Navajo people all his life. He had seen them at trading posts, passing by on horseback or sharing embroidered blankets and finely crafted pottery with quiet pride. He respected them. He did not see them as strangers, only as neighbors whose lives were shaped by the land just as his own was. There were times when Cal would stop his horse near the canyon entrance and simply listen. The canyon carried sound in a special way. A person could speak softly, yet their voice might travel far, curling along the stone walls as though carried by invisible hands. When the sun hit the canyon at just the right angle, the walls glowed deep red and gold, like the earth itself was warmed from within. To Cal, the canyon was not only part of the land, it felt alive. During early mornings when the world was still waking, Atza also walked near those same canyon walls. She liked to touch the rough surface of the stone, to feel the warmth rising from it as the sun climbed higher. She whispered prayers to the wind, asking for clarity, asking for courage, asking for peace between what she wished for herself and what her family wished for her. The canyon was her place of reflection, just as it was a place of reflection for Cal, though neither yet knew of the other's presence. In those quiet mornings, animals moved gently through the brush. Deer lifted their heads to watch. Birds traced soft patterns across the sky. Life felt balanced, graceful, and unhurried. Yet beneath that peaceful surface, both Cal and Atsa were poised on the edge of change. Cal began noticing small signs in his journey. A path he had traveled many times now carried footprints he had not seen before. A broken branch suggested someone had passed recently. A scrap of woven cloth caught on a twig fluttered in the breeze. He was familiar with the land and its marks. He could tell when something new had happened. None of these signs worried him, but they made him more alert, as though the land itself was whispering, "Pay attention." Atsa, meanwhile, found herself in more frequent conversations with her family. Gentle discussions at first, ones filled with patience and attempts to understand. Yet no matter how softly spoken, the same message returned over and over. Her family hoped she would honor their plan for her future. She tried to explain she did not wish to turn her back on tradition. She simply wished to move within it in her own way. She did not want conflict. She only wanted the freedom to grow. Still, the more she tried to explain, the more she felt herself drifting away from being understood. It was a quiet ache, one that settled deep in her chest. She knew her family acted out of love, and she loved them too. That was what made it difficult. Love, when misunderstood, can create distance rather than closeness. On the day their paths finally crossed, the sun had just begun to lift itself over the horizon. The light was soft, golden, and warm. Cal was riding along his usual route, leading his horse at a steady pace. The air smelled of sage and warm soil. Atsa's village was some distance away, but both of them were destined to be nearer to the canyon's heart that day. The world felt gentle, but beneath that gentleness something was shifting quietly, like the soft movement of sand before the wind begins to rise. They did not yet see one another. They did not yet speak. Their meeting was still a few breaths away in the great turning of the day. Yet the land, the sky, the canyon, and the wind seemed to know. Two lives were moving toward a moment that would shape everything that followed, not through force or conflict, but through understanding, compassion, and the quiet power of seeing another person truly for the first time. The morning sun was still soft when Cal guided his horse toward the canyon path. The air was cool, carrying the scent of sagebrush and warm soil slowly waking under daylight. Cal liked this time of day most. It was quiet in a different way than night. At night, quiet felt like sleeping. In the morning, quiet felt like a fresh page waiting to be written on. The sky held a pale gold color and long shadows stretched over the stone and sand. His horse's hooves made a steady sound, calm and familiar. Cal noticed everything as he rode, not because he was searching, but because observation had become part of who he was. The land spoke to those who listened, not through words, but through small signs. The shape of footprints, the bend of grass, the pattern of bird movement. This morning the land was whispering something unusual, a silence that was not natural, a stillness that felt expectant. He slowed his horse without thinking, as if guided by instinct. The canyon walls rose tall on each side, warm brown and deep red, catching the morning light in smooth, glowing layers. Cal scanned the area. At first, everything looked ordinary. The scattered bushes, the rough rock formations, the long path curving ahead. Yet there was something faint in the air, a sound so soft he almost dismissed it as wind brushing the stone, but it wasn't the wind. It was a small, strained sound, not loud, not sharp, more like a breath or a quiet call held back. Cal stopped completely and listened. The sound came again. It was distant and gentle, like someone trying not to cry but unable to hold the sound inside. He felt a tightening in his chest, the kind that happened when something wasn't right. He did not immediately assume danger. He did not jump to conclusions. He simply listened. After several quiet moments, he carefully guided his horse toward the sound. As he moved through a narrow passage of stone, the canyon widened into a small open space surrounded by twisted cedar trees. The branches cast delicate shadows on the ground. Sunlight flickered between leaves as if dancing, and in that soft light Cal saw her, a woman, young, standing near one of the cedar trees, her arms raised and gently secured to a rope. Her posture was upright, but her body looked tired. Not harmed, not broken, but weary, as if she had been standing there for some time. Her hair, long and dark, moved softly with the breeze. Her eyes were lowered, not in fear, but in deep thought, as though she was inside her own quiet world. It was Atsa, though Cal did not know her name yet. For a long moment, he did not move. He simply observed her with respect and care, not wanting to startle or disturb her. He understood enough about the area to know that this was not the work of strangers or cruelty from outsiders. There was meaning here, a cultural practice he did not understand yet. And because he respected her people, he understood the importance of being thoughtful before acting. Atsa slowly lifted her gaze. Their eyes met, and Cal felt something steady and calm in her expression. She was not afraid of him. She was not ashamed. There was a quiet strength inside her, even in her exhaustion. The rope that held her was not tight enough to hurt. It was more symbolic than physical. It signaled something had happened in her life that brought her here. Cal felt the air shift between them, like the beginning of a conversation without words. He dismounted his horse slowly to show he meant no harm. He stepped forward carefully, keeping a respectful distance. He removed his hat and held it at his side, a gesture of greeting and honor. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Atsa's voice was soft when she answered, like wind brushing water. "Yes," she said, though the fatigue in her body suggested it had been a long morning for her. Cal did not rush to ask questions. He sensed that what he saw was part of something larger, something personal. He also sensed that this was not the time to speak many words. Sometimes silence carried more understanding than conversation. Atsa lowered her gaze again, but not out of sadness. It was more like she was thinking, gathering her thoughts. Cal noticed how she breathed slowly, how she remained calm even though she was clearly tired. He admired that quiet strength. After a moment, she spoke again, her voice steady but gentle. "This is not an act of harm," she said, as though reading the concern in his eyes. "It is a tradition of reflection. When someone chooses a path that others fear or do not understand, time alone with the land is meant to bring clarity. I agreed to this, but the hours have been long." Cal listened carefully. He understood the idea, even if he did not know every detail. Reflection, meaning, a quiet place to consider choices. There was no anger in her words, no resentment toward her family or community. Only a deep desire to be understood. "Would you like some water?" he asked softly. Atsa hesitated only a moment before nodding. Cal removed his canteen and stepped closer, staying gentle in every movement. He held the canteen up to her lips so she could drink without lowering her hands. She drank slowly, gratefully, her eyes closing for a brief moment of relief. "Thank you," she murmured. Cal nodded, still saying little. He did not ask why she was here. He did not ask what choice she had made. He did not want to pry into something that felt sacred. Instead, he showed presence, patience, and quiet care. Atsa looked at him fully now. Her eyes were dark, thoughtful, and calm. There was kindness in them. And something else, dignity. "I did not wish to follow a path chosen for me," she said after some time, choosing her words carefully. "I wished to follow one chosen by my own heart. My family believes their way protects me. I believe my way honors who I am." Cal listened. "I do not wish to leave my people," she continued. "I do not wish to turn away from them. I only wish to walk forward with my own steps." Her voice held no bitterness, only sincerity. It was clear she cared deeply about her family and her people. The conflict was not between love and rejection. It was between love and independence. Cal understood this more than most would expect. He had spent his life choosing his own paths, his own roads, living by his own quiet nature. He knew the feeling of needing space to breathe, to think, to simply be oneself without being shaped by others. "You have a strong heart," Cal said softly. Atsa's eyes softened, not because the words flattered her, but because they recognized her, truly recognized. The canyon breeze moved around them, warm and gentle. The leaves of the cedar tree rustled like soft blessings. Time passed in silence, not uncomfortable silence, peaceful silence. Cal sat nearby, giving Atsa company without taking her solitude. His presence was quiet, respectful, unobtrusive. Atsa relaxed slightly, breathing more evenly. The world around them felt still, like the land itself had paused to listen. There was no urgent choice to make yet. No dramatic moment, just two souls sharing the same space, seeing one another clearly. The sun climbed slowly in the sky. Shadows shifted. The day moved forward. Cal felt that something meaningful had begun, even though neither of them could yet name it. They did not know that this simple meeting, born of quiet compassion, would shape both of their lives in ways neither had imagined. What they knew in that moment was simple. One person was tired but strong. The other was gentle and observant, and between them grew respect, quiet, sincere, and real. The sun slowly climbed higher in the sky, making the canyon glow warmly around them. Cal sat near Atza, not too close, not too far. He understood that some spaces should not be crossed quickly. Atza stood quietly, her hands still resting against the rope. She was no longer struggling with the discomfort. She simply allowed herself to breathe, to exist in this moment, knowing that someone now stood beside her who did not judge her, did not assume things about her, and did not try to claim power over her. Cal's presence was gentle like a calm breeze. He was there, but he did not overcrowd the air. Atza appreciated that. She did not know him, but something about the way he carried himself felt familiar, like a person who had also spent a lifetime listening to the land and trying to understand its language. The land had its own kind of speech, a quiet one, something that did not need words. The way he sat, the way he waited, the way he didn't force conversation. These were things that made her trust him. Yet inside her heart, there was still a quiet shaking, like leaves trembling even when the air is still. Her family's disappointment had weighed heavily on her. She did not want to break away from them. She loved them. She respected the life they had taught her. But love and understanding did not always walk side by side. Sometimes love wished to protect, while understanding wished to free. Cal could sense that something emotional was happening inside her. He did not need to ask. He simply waited, giving her room to share if she wished to. And eventually she did. "I did not wish to make anyone feel sadness," Atza said softly, her voice steady but tender. "My family's hopes for me are not unkind. They only worry for my well-being. They believe they are helping me by deciding my future. I wanted them to listen to my voice, but it is difficult to speak loudly when love is involved." Cal listened, his eyes kind. "When I tried to explain my heart," she continued, "they heard something different. They heard rejection. They heard separation. But I only wanted to share a different path, one that still remained close to them. They feared I would lose myself if I went outside the familiar ways. I feared I would lose myself if I did not." Her words were like a river finding its flow, slow and honest. Cal nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes," he said, choosing his words gently, "people hold on to what they understand because letting go feels frightening. Even if they love you deeply, they may not know how to show that love in a way that allows room for change." Atza looked at him with a soft expression. His words felt true. They did not try to simplify her pain. They did not try to suggest an easy solution. They simply acknowledged the complexity. "There is a place inside each person," Cal continued, "where they must listen to their own voice. The world may speak loudly, and family may speak loudly, but the inner voice is what guides the heart. To ignore it is to live someone else's life." Atza breathed slowly, letting the truth of those words settle gently inside her. Cal did not speak as though he were a teacher or someone wiser than others. He spoke from experience. He had lived his life listening to his own quiet voice, choosing his own path, even when others could not understand why he preferred solitude and open land. He did not talk about himself, but Atza could feel that he understood the journey of finding one's own way. For a long moment, they simply shared silence. The wind traced soft lines through the canyon. A bird flew overhead, gliding effortlessly across the sky. The world moved peacefully. As the hours passed, the warmth of the day grew. Cal noticed the way the sunlight touched Atza's skin and the slight weariness in her posture. She had been standing for many hours, likely before he arrived. He did not want to interfere with something meaningful to her, yet he also did not want her to grow weak or faint. "Would it be all right?" Cal asked slowly. "If I helped you rest a bit? I do not wish to disrespect your tradition. I only want to offer care." Atza considered his words carefully, not with suspicion, but with thoughtful reflection. She appreciated that he asked, rather than assumed. She nodded gently. "Thank you," she said. Cal approached the knot holding the rope. Every movement he made was slow, deliberate, full of awareness. This moment was not simply about loosening a tie. It was about honoring her experience while easing her discomfort. He loosened the rope just enough so she could lower her arms and move them comfortably, but he did not remove the rope entirely. It was important to Atsa that the symbolic meaning of this moment remain intact. The rope represented contemplation, reflection, and patience. But now, she could relax her body and sit. Cal helped her step away from the tree, guiding her gently to sit on a flat stone nearby. Her movements were tired but graceful. She closed her eyes for a moment and let her body breathe freely again. He gave her another small drink of water. She accepted it slowly, with gratitude. "It is kind of you to stay," she said softly. Cal shook his head lightly. "It feels right to be here," he replied. Time continued to pass as they sat together beneath the shade of the cedar tree. The canyon air warmed, then cooled again as clouds drifted slowly across the sun. Atsa felt the ground beneath her and let it steady her. She felt connected to the earth again, no longer weighed down by physical strain. Cal's gentle support had given her room to think more clearly. As the afternoon deepened, Atsa began to speak again. This time her words came like gentle rain, slowly nourishing understanding. "I want to learn how to heal," she said quietly. "I want to help others find peace when they feel lost. I have watched the elder healers speak to those who come seeking guidance. She listens in a way that makes people feel seen. I want to learn that way of listening." Cal smiled softly. "It seems your heart already knows the path it wishes to follow." Atsa's expression grew lighter, almost relieved. "Sometimes," she admitted, "the hardest part is believing my path is worthy, even when others do not understand it." Cal looked at her with calm assurance. "Your path is shaped by your spirit, and your spirit is strong." His words were not loud or dramatic. They were gentle, simple, steady, and that was what made them powerful. The sun began to lower in the sky, casting warm, amber light across the canyon. The day was shifting toward evening. Shadows grew longer. The air grew cooler again. Atsa felt renewed strength inside her, not because someone had rescued her, not because someone had changed her situation, but because someone had listened to her without asking her to change who she was. In that quiet canyon space, two lives had touched without force, without expectation, without judgment. This was not a story of saving. It was a story of seeing. Cal stood and looked toward the horizon as though reading the sky. The day would soon come to a close. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, or what choices Atsa would make once she returned to her family. He did not try to predict or direct the future. Some journeys unfold step by step, gently and with patience. Atsa stood slowly, her posture stronger now. She looked at the land around her and felt her heart settle into clarity. She was not alone. She was not misunderstood by everyone. She had found someone who could see her truth. It did not solve everything, but it was enough to continue. And sometimes enough is powerful. The air in the canyon began to cool as evening slowly approached. The sunlight softened into a warm golden glow, casting long shadows that stretched gently across the ground. The day had been long, yet it felt meaningful, like each moment had unfolded with quiet purpose. Atsa stood with renewed calm in her heart, and Cal watched her with thoughtful eyes, sensing that her inner strength had returned. Neither of them spoke for a while. Words were not always needed. The sound of the breeze moving through the cedar leaves, the whisper of distant birds settling into their nests, and the soft crackle of dry grass were enough to fill the silence in a comforting way. It was a silence that gave space for reflection, not discomfort. After some time, Atsa looked at the rope still resting loosely around her wrist. She touched it gently. The rope no longer felt heavy. It no longer felt like something that held her back. Instead, it had become a reminder of her journey, a reminder that she had stood her ground with patience and courage. She understood why this moment mattered, but she also felt that this moment had done its work. There was no longer anything to be gained by remaining bound. Cal noticed the small, thoughtful movement of her hand. He did not rush toward her. He did not assume that she wanted help. He simply waited, allowing her to guide the next moment. Atsa breathed in deeply, and when she exhaled, the air left her lungs slowly, as though letting go of something heavy she had carried for a long time. "I think," she said softly, her voice calm and sure, "it is time for me to continue." Cal nodded gently. "If you wish, I can help you." Atsa met his gaze, and in that look there was clarity, not uncertainty, not fear, but quiet determination. She nodded. Cal stepped forward with steady hands. His movements were respectful, slow, and careful. There was no urgency, no force. He untied the rope softly, the fibers loosening with ease as if even the rope itself understood that its purpose had come to an end. When the rope slid away, Atsa's arms were free. She stretched them gently, closing her eyes briefly as relief washed over her. The simple act of being able to move her hands freely again felt like a new beginning. But the most important freedom she felt was within her heart. She was no longer standing under the weight of misunderstanding. She had found her voice again. She had reconnected with her purpose. The rope had never been the true restraint. The uncertainty had been. Now that uncertainty had lifted. Cal placed the rope aside. He did not keep it, and he did not discard it carelessly. He placed it neatly on a rock, recognizing that the object too held meaning and deserved respect. Atsa stepped forward, lightly touching the trunk of the cedar tree. She whispered a small prayer of thanks, not for the trial itself, but for the strength it revealed within her. The earth beneath her feet felt steady. The sky above felt wide. Everything around her seemed more alive now that her heart had settled. "We should go," Cal said gently. "The light will fade soon," Atsa nodded. She felt ready, though she did not yet know what the evening would bring. They walked side by side, moving slowly through the canyon. Cal held the reins of his horse, allowing it to walk freely behind them. The path was open, smooth, and familiar now. The sounds of nature filled the air in a soothing rhythm. Each step felt like progress. As they walked, Atsa spoke softly. "There is an elder in my community," she said. "She is wise and patient. She listens before she speaks. Her guidance is gentle and understanding. Many people come to her when their hearts feel heavy." Cal listened. "I want to speak with her," Atsa continued. "I want her to help me explain my heart to my family, not in anger, not in resistance, but in peace. I love them. I want them to see me clearly, not as someone who turned away from them, but as someone who is simply walking her own path while still being connected to them." Cal nodded. "That seems like a thoughtful choice." Atsa smiled softly. "I hope she will help them understand. And I hope they will listen." Cal looked at her with quiet admiration. Many would have chosen to walk away in frustration. Many would have allowed hurt to grow into distance. But Atsa was rooted in love. She did not want to abandon anyone. She only wanted to be free in a way that still honored her bonds. "You have a gentle strength," he said. "That kind of strength can change hearts." Atsa's smile grew warmer this time. "Thank you. Your presence today helped me remember that strength. Sometimes we forget who we are when we feel alone." Cal understood this deeply. He had lived alone for many years. Not because he disliked people, but because solitude made it easier to hear his own thoughts without interference. Yet even he knew that companionship, when given sincerely, could be a gift. They walked until the canyon opened into a wider plain. The sky was now painted with soft shades of orange, pink, and lavender. The world looked like a canvas brushed by gentle hands. Atsa paused for a moment, taking in the beauty. "Your people's land is beautiful," Cal said in a quiet voice filled with respect. Atsa nodded. "It is the home of my spirit." They continued onward until they reached a small rise overlooking Atsa's village in the distance. Soft smoke rose from cooking fires. The faint sound of rhythmic drums floated through the evening air, gentle and welcoming. The sight brought warmth to Atsa's heart. She had missed her home, even while she was struggling with her place within it. Cal stopped with her. He understood that this next step was hers alone to take. Atsa stood quietly watching the village, gathering her courage and calm. She felt grounded, supported by the land beneath her and the sky above. She felt the lingering strength of the moment she had shared with Cal. The understanding, the listening, the presence. It had given her the clarity she needed to return not with fear but with peace. "Thank you," Atsa said softly, turning to Cal. Her voice was warm and sincere. "You did not try to decide for me. You did not push me. You simply stood with me. That is something rare." Cal lowered his eyes slightly, not out of shyness, but out of quiet acknowledgement. "You did not need saving," he said. "You only needed space to remember your voice. I only stayed beside you." Atsa's expression softened with gentle appreciation. "Still," she said, "your presence mattered." Cal nodded, accepting her gratitude without needing to claim anything from it. The wind brushed across the grass. The sky dimmed slowly. The world around them felt full and calm. "I will go speak with the elder." Atsa said after a deep breath. I believe she will understand you, Cal replied. Atsa smiled one last time, then began walking toward the village step by step, slowly, gracefully, like someone who had found her path again. Cal watched her until she was halfway down the path. He did not follow. He did not need to. This part of her journey belonged only to her. Then, with a quiet sigh, he turned back toward the open land, the wide sky, the endless horizon, the peaceful road that awaited him. He did not know what the future held, but he knew something meaningful had happened. 2 lives had touched, not by force, not by accident, but by understanding. And sometimes understanding is the beginning of everything. The sky turned a soft shade of blue as evening settled over the land. Atsa walked toward her village with slow, steady steps. Each footstep felt lighter than the last. Her heart no longer felt clouded by confusion. Instead, it felt calm, like a lake after the wind has passed. The path beneath her feet was familiar, yet she felt as though she was seeing it with new eyes. The land was no longer a place of questions. It was a place of belonging. As she approached the village, she could hear gentle voices and the soft sound of drums. The smell of wood smoke drifted in the air, warm and comforting. She paused for a moment before entering, breathing deeply to gather her thoughts. She wanted to speak with clarity and kindness. She wanted her family to feel her love in every word. The first person to see her was a child, a little girl who often followed Atsa to watch her weave patterns into blankets. The child's eyes brightened with recognition, and she ran toward Atsa, her small steps quick and eager. When she reached her, she simply took Atsa's hand and held it. Atsa smiled gently. There was no need for words. Kindness could speak by itself. Soon others noticed her return. Her mother stepped forward, her eyes full of both relief and worry. Atsa walked to her calmly. There was no rush, no fear. When they reached one another, they simply stood close, breathing the same air, holding the same quiet emotion between them. Her mother lifted her hands and touched Atsa's face tenderly. My heart was heavy without you, her mother whispered. Atsa's eyes softened. I never left my love for you, she said. I only needed time to understand my own heart. Her mother nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. There was no anger, only concern. The love between them had remained through everything. Atsa's father stood nearby, watching them both. His expression was calm, thoughtful, but clearly unsure. He had always wanted to protect his daughter, to guide her in a way he believed would bring her happiness. Yet sometimes protection can be heavy when it is not shared with understanding. Atsa turned toward him. Father, she said softly. He did not speak right away. He waited for her to continue. I honor everything you taught me, she said gently. I honor our traditions, our ways, our stories. They live in me. They are part of who I am. I do not turn away from them. I only wish to walk a path where I can learn to help others in my own way. I want to grow into someone who can heal hearts, who can listen, who can bring peace. That is where my spirit feels called. Her father's eyes softened, though his expression remained serious. He was thinking deeply. His silence was not a refusal. It was consideration. Atsa continued, her voice steady and respectful. I ask not to be separated from our ways. I ask to grow within them. I ask for your trust that my heart is not lost. It is only finding its own rhythm. Her words were quiet, but full of truth. The elder healer, the woman Atsa spoke of earlier, stepped into the circle then. She had been listening quietly from a distance, letting the family speak first. Her steps were slow and graceful, her presence gentle but strong. She was a woman who carried years of understanding in her eyes. She placed her hand softly on Atsa's father's shoulder. There are many paths within our tradition, she said, her voice calm and warm. Some walk familiar paths. Others walk new ones that still honor our roots. Atsa's spirit is not against your guidance. It is growing in a direction that can bring warmth and healing to our community. Atsa's father watched the elder healer, Her words carried weight because she did not speak without thought. "She has a heart that listens," the elder continued. "That is a rare and valuable gift. To silence that gift would not protect her. It would diminish her. Let her grow. She will not walk away from us. She will walk among us with deeper understanding." Silence followed, but it was not tense. It was thoughtful. Atsa's father looked at his daughter again. Really looked. He saw the calm strength in her eyes. He saw maturity. He saw peace. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. Not quickly, not dramatically, but gently, like a door opening. He nodded once, slowly and with sincerity. "If your heart has chosen this path," he said softly, "then I will walk beside you as you follow it. I only ever wished for your well-being. If this brings you peace, then I will honor it." Relief flowed through Atsa like warm sunlight. She stepped forward and embraced her father. His arms wrapped around her, not in control but in acceptance. The elder healer placed her hand on Atsa's back, a quiet blessing. "You will begin your learning with me tomorrow," the elder said. "You will learn to listen deeply, to guide with patience, to walk with humility and strength." Atsa bowed her head with gratitude. This was not a victory over her family. It was a joining of hearts through understanding. The village welcomed her return with a gentle warmth. People greeted her with soft smiles. A small fire was lit, and families gathered to talk and share stories. The evening was calm, and peace settled like a comforting blanket over the land. Meanwhile, far across the plain, Cal rode his horse slowly toward the open horizon. He did not look back, not because he wished to forget, but because he carried the moment in his heart. The time he had spent with Atsa had touched him deeply. He had seen courage expressed through gentleness. He had seen strength expressed through softness. He had been reminded that presence alone can be powerful. Cal found a quiet place near a stream as dusk closed in. He rested, letting the horse drink while he leaned against a smooth rock. The stars began to appear, one by one, each shining softly in the vast sky. He watched them with calm eyes. He did not need Atsa to journey with him to feel connected to her. Their connection was not built on possession or expectation. It was built on understanding. And understanding does not fade when distance grows. It remains like a gentle echo in the heart. In time, Atsa grew into her role as a healer. She learned to speak with patience, to listen with full attention, to guide without forcing. People came to her not because she told them what to do, but because she helped them find their own answers. Her presence was calming. Her spirit was steady. Her family saw her happiness, her growth, her purpose. And in seeing, they became even more proud of her than they had ever been before. Sometimes Cal passed near the village during his travels. He and Atsa would meet briefly on the ridge overlooking the canyon. They would talk for a while about the land, the seasons, the quiet journeys of the heart. Their friendship remained gentle and sincere, like a soft thread connecting two people who understood one another without needing many words. Their story was not one of grand declarations or dramatic endings. It was a story of quiet courage, of listening, of respect. Atsa did not lose her family. She did not lose herself. She found a way to hold both. And Cal continued his peaceful travels, carrying her wisdom with him like a warm ember that never faded. Their story reminds us of something simple yet powerful. Hearts do not need to be broken for growth to happen. Sometimes healing begins the moment someone is finally heard.